Fox 61 News at 10 starts now.
Tonight at 10, rebuild and rescue after Hurricane Ian.
I'm in awe over such destruction.
Florida is searching for victims tonight as Connecticut sends help and the Carolinas brace for what Ian brings next.
He died wearing his Eagle Scout sweatshirt, and it got cut in half.
2 teenagers killed in a late-night crash. We're hearing from one of their mothers tonight in a Fox 61 exclusive.
We'll tell you how one Connecticut town showed enormous support and love as it remembers Coach Moses. And we begin tonight tracking Ian, who now has its sights on South Carolina. The storm has finally left Florida after causing destruction all across the state for 2 days. Here's a look at video of some of the damage across the state spanning about 300 miles. Aerial views of Fort Myers showing houses and bridges destroyed a few miles from where the hurricane officially made landfall yesterday on the island of Cayo Costa. Ian also created several feet of flooding in the Orlando area, like at Universal Studios in the city of Kissimmee. Before heading back over water, it also caused flooding and storm surge on the Atlantic coast, like here in St. Augustine. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jen Bernstein.
And I'm Ben Goldman. As Florida recovers from Ian, the storm is now re-strengthened into a hurricane over the Atlantic Ocean tonight, and it's expected to make another landfall. Here's a look at the latest information on Ian from our Weather Watch Center. The newest update says that Ian has 75-mile-per-hour winds. It's about 200 miles south of the city of Charleston, and the entire South Carolina coast is now under a hurricane warning as of tonight. But back in southwest Florida, new video tonight shows the catastrophic damage to the waterfront in Fort Myers Beach. Doors and windows completely blown out of buildings as debris covers this street. Sand is also covering the road after the record-breaking storm surge pulled it ashore.
We have live team coverage of Hurricane Ian. Fox 61's Sarah Sanchez is in our newsroom to show us how Ian's damage has spread far away from where it first made landfall. Gabby Molina is in Farmington to tell us about the Connecticut Red Cross volunteers who are deploying to Florida. But first, let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank with the very latest information on Ian. Rachel.
Hurricane Ian strengthening even as we speak. 75-mile-per-hour winds right now, but this storm is moving over very warm water, the Gulf Stream. It only needs water temperatures of 80 degrees or higher to help it strengthen, and water temperatures are exceeding that. The storm is about 200 miles to the south of Charleston, and it looks like that's going to be near where the storm makes landfall, around Charleston through about Myrtle Beach or so, as a Category 1 hurricane with winds estimated around 80 miles per hour. After that happens, the storm moves farther inland and it does start to weaken. A lot of people have been asking, what is the impact for us here in Connecticut? Well, during the day tomorrow, we'll see increasing clouds. While the storm will be here on Saturday, some of the moisture from this storm will start to spread north and will bring us some rain as we head into your Saturday. But it's a tricky forecast to figure out how much rain we're going to end up getting. It looks like there will be a sharp gradient across the state, with more in southern areas towards the shoreline than up north towards the Massachusetts border. Either way, plan on some rain as we head through your Saturday, and we're going to talk more through the scenarios in a bit. Lows tonight in the 40s. Tomorrow we're dry with increasing clouds and highs in the 60s. More on what South Carolina can expect as we head through the day tomorrow, as well as us here at home, coming up in just a bit.
All right, Rachel, thank you. Well, while the Carolinas wait for Hurricane Ian's now third landfall, Florida is starting its recovery from the fourth strongest storm to ever hit the state. Early estimates say that Ian may have left at least $40 billion in damage across the state of Florida. Fox 61's Sarah Sanchez joining us live in the newsroom tonight with the latest on recovery efforts and just how bad all of that damage is. Sarah?
Well, Ben, more than 2.5 million Floridians are still without power tonight. Rescue crews have been traveling through flooded streets and neighborhoods filled with debris, trying to help as many people as they can. We have a look now at the destruction in Charlotte County, which is in between Sarasota and Fort Myers. Almost 90% of that county is still waiting for their electricity to return. At least one man is confirmed dead in Florida, so that's marking the third death from Ian after 2 people were killed in Cuba. President Biden says this could be the deadliest hurricane in Florida's history.
The numbers are still unclear, but we're hearing early reports of what may be substantial loss of life. The federal government will cover 100% of the cost to clear debris and for all the costs that the state has to engage in and expend to save lives.
Now, we're also hearing tonight from some of the first people to fly to Connecticut from Florida since Hurricane Ian made landfall yesterday afternoon. A Spirit Airlines flight from Miami arrived at Bradley International Airport just before 4 this afternoon. While Miami missed most of the severe weather, a tornado from Ian's outer bands ripped through a neighborhood about 20 miles north in the city of Pembroke Pines.
Whoever is out there, be safe. I know it's a difficult time for them, but hopefully, we have come. Florida itself, has come out of the bad hurricanes, so hopefully this time too.
Some Breeze Airways flights to Jacksonville and Charleston and a flight to Myrtle Beach have been canceled tomorrow. The head of the American Red Cross says hundreds of volunteers from around the country have been deployed to Florida, and that includes dozens from right here in Connecticut. Fox 61's Gabby Molina joins us live now in Farmington with how many more people were able to head south today. Gabby.
Sarah, 4 volunteers from here in Connecticut left here in Farmington to go down to Florida. They'll be meeting there with more than 24 other volunteers from Connecticut and Rhode Island to help the people of Florida as they pick up the pieces. Hurricane Ian slamming Florida, leaving behind widespread devastation.
Gas stations destroyed, neighborhoods underwater.
All right, this is our yard.
Southington native Sarah Zimmerman is now living in Sarasota, Florida, and for the first time had to prepare for a major hurricane.
Originally, we thought that Sarasota would be directly hit. So that's why we were so nervous, and we boarded up the windows and did all the sandbags.
Fortunately, the area did not get hit as badly as was first expected. But in Fort Myers, Florida, where Branford native Griffin Pearson now lives, the hurricane caused significant damage.
We looked outside, all of a sudden the flood starts coming. Comes up really quick, and we started panicking because we didn't think the flood was going to come and get to us because we're about maybe 10 miles away from the beach.
It's what Red Cross volunteers are now preparing to encounter. Connecticut volunteers left Farmington on Thursday to head to a staging area in Orlando before being deployed to the hardest hit areas.
The challenges will be to get from here to where we need to be. Highways are flooded, bridges will be out, roads are just destroyed. Communication is a big problem.
It will be Joe Apicelli's 53rd deployment in his 17 years with the Red Cross. He's part of a crew heading down in an emergency response vehicle, equipped with insulated food and beverage containers that can hold up to 450 meals at a time. They'll be serving food at shelters and going right into communities in need.
This chair will be swiveled this way. This window will pop out.
And in what's a dark time for many Floridians, they also hope to be a beacon of light.
The Red Cross emblem I'm proudly showing on my badge is a signal of hope. And that's just what we're going to do. We're going to be a sign of hope.
Important work they're doing. We've seen so many terrible images of the damage in Florida, Gabby, and it's going to take a long time, as you were just saying, for the state to recover. So how long are these Connecticut crews staying there?
Yeah, Jen, definitely a long time. It's going to take them a couple of days to get down there as they're kind of keeping an eye on the hurricane as it continues to move and what impacts that's going to have on their travel. Then they're expecting to stay there for about 2 weeks, but they are prepared to stay even longer if their help is needed.
Thank you very much, Gabby. Our coverage of Hurricane Ian continues in just a few minutes here. Be sure to download the free Fox 61 News app to get the latest on the storm as it moves on up the East Coast. By the way, also a great resource for severe weather alerts here at home in Connecticut as well. All right, in a Fox 61 exclusive tonight, we're hearing from the Glastonbury mother whose son was killed in a crash Sunday night.
Yeah, 18-year-old Gordon Southby died, along with a 15-year-old from Colchester. Fox 61's Tony Black sat down with Southby's mother on how she's remembering her son, who many in Glastonbury knew as Mac.
I'll show you his room.
It's been an emotional and tragic week for Veronica Southby.
I've cried enough tears on that pillow.
Her 18-year-old son, Gordon Mac Southby, died Sunday. He was riding his motorcycle on Hebron Avenue when he and an SUV got into an accident near the Route 2 on-ramp. A 15-year-old girl died as well.
That was his helmet that he was wearing.
Mac was a senior at Glastonbury High. He wanted to follow in his mom's footsteps and join the Navy.
At nighttime, I leave the light on. I mean, he's not coming home. I always left the light on for him, though, so when he came home, he could find his way into his bed. I don't know why I still leave the light on for him, but I do.
Veronica says she got up Sunday morning to go to church. Mac and his 17-year-old brother, Augie, slept in. Later in the day, Mac went out to grab some food. A couple of hours later, Veronica received a call from the hospital.
But there it was, the three-word sentence that just changed my whole life. Mac is dead. Oh, what? Well, take me to my boy.
She got to see her son.
He was still warm, and I could hold him. Well, he still had, although he was dead, he still had the life in him, so to speak. And I do believe he heard me say, I love you one more time for the millionth time. And how sorry I was for, all the corrections that you give a young 18-year-old boy.
Veronica says Mac was a natural-born mechanic with a love for fixing and making motorcycles. He would do it for others, too.
I wasn't paying enough attention to how beautiful he was. And I saw it when I looked out my front porch on the night of the 26th.
The day after he died, candles lined his home. They continued to burn there.
Everyone who he had touched, who he had helped, who he had outfitted in a bike, rode with, had a great time with, they all showed up.
Veronica went to the crash site, took off her shoes, and walked around the spot she calls Holy Ground, picking up pieces of the motorcycle. As she gets ready to bury Mac, she grieves for the son she could never see grow up.
He attracted the best of people because he was the best of humanity.
Now, Glastonbury and state police are continuing to investigate the crash. Mac's mom says he was authentic and died doing exactly what he loved, riding his motorcycle. While Veronica says her son knew that she loved him, she says the last thing she would tell him one more time is that she did love him. So very unfortunate situation. They're planning to bury him next week.
Just thinking of his family.
And how were her spirits when you were with her? I mean, obviously there was a lot of conversation that didn't get captured on camera, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's hard. She still has a son left. Unfortunately, his dad died in 2019. They're going to bury him right next to his dad, so a very sad situation for this family. But she says seeing the support, the love from all of Mac's friends, she said that this meant a lot to her.
And we're sending her love tonight.
Indeed.
Thank you, Tony.
Tony, thank you. All right. Still to come here.